Before we dive into today's episode, I have something for you, but this is only if you are a woman who has bills to pay and children to feed, and you still want to feel alive and energized and fulfilled while doing it. Head on over to Heather Chauvin, CHAUVIN.com/ETM. I am hosting an energetic time management challenge, a habit challenge. So not only am I going to show you how to create habits that only need to take 10 minutes a day. Yes, 10 minutes a day. You're going to learn how to reverse engineer how you want to feel, where to focus your energy and attention to get your energy back now, how to manage your energy, not your time, so your to-do list does not suck the life out of you, so you can be present for your children, so you can feel productive in your day, so you can go after your dreams without feeling like there's never enough time, or that you're never enough. So if you are a woman raising children, this is for you. Head on over to heatherchauvin.com/ETM. And if you missed this live round, because yes, there are live calls and there's a sense of community as well, then get on the wait list and you can join us for the next one. Hey, I'm really excited to share today's episode with you. I met Jenn Kautsch a few months ago. We were in a similar mastermind, a group together. And I was like, I love this woman. And Jenn Kautsch is the founder and the creator of the Sober Sis community. And she's a leader in the Sober Curious movement. She's from Texas and lives with her husband of 27 years and 2 adult children. Jenn talks a lot about the Sober Curious movement, and she really supports people in learning how to feel alive again without alcohol. So she really helps you figure out how to drink less or not at all and avoid the mental tug of war so you can feel free again. The reason why I'm sharing today's conversation with you is because I think it's really, really important. Well, one, previously I had a guest on and we talked about the gray area drinking, and I got such great feedback from it, and people saying like, it's been 4 years, it's been 5 years, I haven't been drinking, or I've been really, cutting back. And I think there's this all or nothing mentality when it comes to drinking. Personally, I have, changed my relationship with alcohol, and I haven't really drank in about 5 years. But it's fascinating because when stress gets in the way, you see how we turn to these numbers, right? It might be alcohol, it may be Netflix, it might be social media. And to be honest, I think this is a really, really important conversation to have, especially for women. I get wildly triggered about wine o'clock and mommy juice, and I hope you gain value from today's conversation. So we're going to dive in. This is my dear friend, Jenn Kautsch. And let's dive in to the gray area drinking. I want you to listen to her story and let me know what you think.
Hey, thanks, Heather, for this opportunity to tell a little bit more about my story. So again, I'm Jenn Kautsch, aka Sober Sis. I'm an empty nester that lives down here in Texas, so I may say y'all a few times. And I just wanted to start a little bit with my personal story. I think everybody has a story, big or small, around our relationship with alcohol, because it's such a huge part of our society, our culture. And I want to talk today about really just the mommy juice wine culture, what gray area drinking is, and just the fact that there is a drinking spectrum. And for the longest time, I didn't know that. I thought it was black and white, all or nothing. You were either someone who could take it or leave it, and alcohol was super small in your life, or you had a huge problem with alcohol and you were a full-blown alcoholic in physical addiction and kind of the end of the line. So the fact that there is something called the gray area on the drinking spectrum really allows, I think, for a lot more discussion, curiosity, discovery without having to wear labels. And I just want to have the message today that, you can change your relationship with alcohol at any time for any reason. You don't have to have a big rock bottom, lose something, or have a super negative experience. And as I tell you a little bit more about my story, you'll see that that's exactly the case for me. So just rewind my life a little bit. It was actually in my young 30s that I started really getting into the social drinking scene in a different way. I had a few drinks here and there in college in my 20s, but it was really not my thing. It was not my thing at all. I grew up where alcohol was not a big part of my family life growing up, even young married. It was not an activity for my husband and I at that time. And I really watched the culture shift and change around alcohol, marketing, messaging, just the media and the social norms around alcohol. And so I would say it was in my young 30s. I was a stay-at-home mom by day and doing marketing and working outside of my home in the evenings with a home-based business. So I was kind of stressed out by day, trying to, make calls and kind of run a business at home. And it was going out and doing a lot of sales calls and meetings in the evenings. And so there I was in my young 30s, kids on the ground, been married a bit. And that's when I really got kind of sucked into, if you will, the happy hour vortex that's out there. And really, that's when I started using alcohol as just kind of a social treat. I felt like I was kind of working hard. So it was work hard, play hard was the message, and kind of loosen up from the end of the day. And again, because I was a little bit later in life drinker, as to making it a regular habit, took me a minute to catch up. But me being, I guess you could call it type A, sometimes overachiever, performance-oriented, overthinker, highly responsible. You can imagine what drinking felt like for me. There I was, young working mom, and the mommy wine juice culture had just started really kicking up with the messaging that you deserve this. This is a treat. This is a reward. It's me time. And I really bought into that because, quite honestly, that's what most of my friends were doing. And it just made a lot of sense to me. I felt like it was an adulting thing to do. I felt like, be a mom during the day, be with the kids during the day, and then be an adult at night. And part of adulting was drinking. And so that was really me in my 30s, just navigating, marriage, motherhood, career, home life, the networking, the happy hours, and all of it. And so I think that that's where my relationship with drinking really, truly started for me. And I know for a lot of your listeners here, it was maybe a lot younger, high school, college at least, or the 20s. But for me, it was a little bit later. And so I think with that came a unique dose of cognitive dissonance as well. What I mean by that is the mental tug of war. I'm a responsible mom to two awesome kids. I'm a wife, and I want to relax. I want to unwind. I kind of want to let my hair down. So it wasn't like I was a crazy party girl, but immediately I was wrestling inside with wanting to be super responsible, super on point, and then really have this elixir at night that could kind of undo all of my mindfulness by day. So I was super mindful by day, super into my workout. I'm very health oriented. So I'd wake up. I'm also a woman of faith. So I would wake up and have my prayer time and then make my workout and then juice my green juice. And I was doing all the right things. And then in the evening, I found myself dealing with things like decision fatigue and just kind of wanting to hit the eject button because I really at that point had not really discovered the practice of self-care and what self-care really is. Because so much of the wine culture and mommy juice culture tells us that drinking is self-care, that it's a form of self-care. And so, again, what I found in my 40s, as I was continuing to raise those kiddos, they continued to grow and turned in the little ones turned into teenagers. And oh my goodness, my oldest turned 13 the same year I turned 40. And I got to tell you, the next 5 years were really challenging for me with extra anxiety. Also, just trying to navigate how to interact with a teenager, move out of the way, hold the line, keep the boundaries. And it was just a lot. And that's when I really recognized for me that my relationship with alcohol had gone from a treat on the weekends or after a stressful day to kind of slipping into that habit where it's just on autopilot. And I think that's where a lot of people fall in their relationship with alcohol. It's somewhere in the middle where you can physically take it or leave it. I was not physically addicted to alcohol. I could take breaks anytime I wanted. In fact, I did often. I would often do 30-day challenges or health, cleanses. And alcohol was usually not a part of that. And I could do that just like I did when I was pregnant. But mentally, emotionally, that's when I knew that alcohol did have a bigger grip on me, because every time I took a break, it was like I was counting down to going back to drinking. Again, just an evening drinker. Every once in a while, I would dip into lunch with the girls after a workout. Of course, it was what I call the detox to retox loop. And boy, was I stuck in that for years, where again, super mindful by day, doing all the right things. And then in the evening, just kind of undoing it. And what I found is over time, and this is kind of where you can see that what is a habit can turn into an addiction, a physical addiction, because it is a one-way highway. I think because in my 30s, I really started drinking on a more regular basis. And by my 40s, it was just kind of like what I did in the evening, whether that was with my husband for a date night, book club with the girls, a girls' night out, or even just by myself cooking in the kitchen. It had gotten me in a rut. And so no matter where you are on that, it's the mental, emotional side that I have found is where the real work is done. And so that's a huge aspect of that gray area drinking, because you look like everyone else, quote, around you. Your life is not in shambles. You're not, waking up and needing a drink to feel normal, but you are kind of scratching an itch, whether that's nightly or just maybe binging on the weekends, that alcohol itself is creating. You see, I didn't understand the science behind alcohol. I thought I was just weak-willed. Maybe it was even a moral failure on my part, why I couldn't get it together and why I liked it so much. I always felt guilty that I loved my vino so much. But I also found it a little bit hard to control sometimes, because what happens just naturally for human beings, this is true for most people, the more you drink or use an addictive substance, which we all know alcohol is, the more you build up tolerance over time. I mean, when I had that glass of wine at that networking happy hour in my young 30s, after my 20s full of pregnancies and building a life and building a business. But when I had that glass of wine in my young 30s, it was actually memorable to me because of the release that it gave me mentally and emotionally. And I attributed a lot of value to that feeling and started really outsourcing a lot of my ability to cope with hard things and anxiety to needing a glass of wine to do it. And it's funny because I didn't feel that way at all in my 20s when I was going through some really hard things. It never occurred to me to turn to something mind altering. But the minute I did start turn to something mind altering is when it started to erode a lot of my resilience and really steal my joy away, because I wasn't quite happy if I didn't have what it is I thought I wanted. And so I was holding on to it pretty tight. So what I do now, one more thing about my story. So it was really in my mid 40s that I had an opportunity. My daughter was just graduating from high school. Again, a huge milestone for her, new life season for her journey. And I wanted to take it as a new season in my life as well. And I knew I wanted to show up at 50 different than I did 40. When I showed up at 40, I was exhausted, overwhelmed, in the rat race, and just really surviving my own life, but not really showing up for myself. Oftentimes, kind of just playing small, even in my own life, in my own family. So I wanted to show up at 50 more empowered, more like I felt in my 20s, more resilient and better shape, mentally stronger, emotionally more stable, all the things, really all the things that alcohol promised me, but was not delivering. I wanted to find those things apart from alcohol. And I knew changing my relationship with drinking was truly the lead domino for me that would open up finding my true essence again and really getting back to who I already am. Because it had kind of put a cloud on me, just a little bit of a dullness. I always say that alcohol just kind of steals our spark because it's a homogenous experience. Once you start drinking, Brene Brown famously has said, drinking just numbs everything. You can't selectively numb. So when I was sad, I was also numbing out my joy. When I was anxious, I was numbing out my anxiety, but I was also numbing out my resilience to handle hard things. So it really felt like a lead domino for me to start to step into my power again and into my right identity. And so I set out on a journey right before I turned 46 to show up at 50 differently than I did 40. And I knew it would take some time. I knew that there were several things in my life that I just really wanted to reconstruct, recreate, and restructure. And so I started with my relationship with drinking. And I initially just took a break. Which is what I help women do now. I just help women take a break from alcohol without having to say forever, never, but mainly just get out of that autopilot, mindless sipping and get into a place where you're actually learning more about alcohol itself, why we drink in the first place, what's it really doing for us. The craving cycle. I have so many practical tips in my free guide that I'm so excited for you to share with your female listeners because the women I work with, we just need some practical tools. Oftentimes we want to change our relationship with drinking. We want to be able to socialize without having to have a glass in our hand, or at least a glass of alcohol, that is. And we're looking for practical tools to do that and not feel left out or not feel miserable, or how to connect socially or on a date night without what has now become in our world oftentimes kind of the guest of honor. Like, let's get together for drinks. And then the drinks come, and then it's almost like it's all about the drinks and the next drink. And again, over time, that tolerance builds and dependency builds too. And people, quite honestly, are just typically drinking more and more and enjoying it less. So instead of asking the wrong question, which I ask myself for years, and every time I ask the wrong question, which I'll say now to your listeners, so you can know that if you're saying this to yourself, it may not be taking you where you want to go. I kept asking myself, is it bad enough, Jen? Is your drinking bad enough to really have to change? And every time I said, is it bad enough? It wasn't. I could literally look around and compare myself to others and always feel better about myself because my drinking wasn't like so-and-so or wasn't as bad as, So the right question I want you to ask yourself today is not, is it bad enough, but is it good enough? How's it working out for you? How's it working? How do you want to feel in the morning? I plan my Friday nights now based on the Saturday morning I want to have. One of my practical tools in the free guide is literally how to play the movie forward. Because I knew at 5 o'clock, wine o'clock, once I opened a bottle of wine, chances are in a 5-hour long evening before bedtime, I could nurse on that bottle. And before I know it, have 3 or 4 glasses and recycle the bottle as if it never happened. But it did happen. And it was totally misaligned with who I was by day. And because I built up tolerance, and I'm eating and I'm drinking my water, I'm doing all the things while I'm doing it. it was just kind of causing me to kind of coast through life, just kind of chill out. And, but ultimately that was not working for me. It did not align at all mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so that's what I'm passionate about, is helping women get that alignment so that it's not about, maybe even total abstinence. Although I have found personally, in a lot of women that I've worked with, it's actually oftentimes easier to take a break, extend that break, and then you feel so good. You can bring it back in anytime you want, that you think, well, why would I? Where's the value? Where is the value? And so, anyway, I think it's about finding a healthy balance and finding a healthy relationship with alcohol. And for me, I've just turned down the dial so low on the value of it that I'm really embracing an alcohol-free lifestyle. Just like women are vegan or gluten-free, what works for your body. I've done deep dive studies on the science behind alcohol and how it affects our metabolism, our sleep, our energy, our hormones. And I've just got to tell you, ladies, there's actually no benefit. There are just none. In fact, it does a number on all of those things, even a glass. So it's not even about amount as much as just the toxin in your body. Because the minute we start drinking alcohol, our body goes into overdrive to rid itself of the toxin. We know it's a toxin. In fact, some people may or may not know that's actually it's a carcinogen. It's got a lot of links to different kinds of diseases and cancers. And I think so often, we look at alcohol and no one's talking about it unless they feel like they've got a problem. And I'm just here to change the dynamic a little bit and the relationship with alcohol and the conversation to make it safe to talk about alcohol before you have a big rock bottom, before you've got a big problem. And just allow women to, if you will, pull off the drinking highway midway through. And just pull over. I picture it like you're on a drinking highway. It's going one direction. Anyone that drinks is on that highway. So if you're a take it or leave it person that just has a glass of wine or a margarita here and there, but you don't really care and it's just not anything you think about, you're still on the drinking highway, but you're in the far right lane. You're taking it slow and it's not a big deal. Some people hit that left lane, go fast and crash and burn at the end. I was just kind of in the middle lane on cruise control, quite honestly. And what I do is I help women pull off that drinking highway. That's what I encourage anyone to do. Pull off the drinking highway, go to a rest stop, find out if alcohol is really providing you what it's promising you. Is it giving you rest? Probably not. It's probably giving you temporary relief with a high price, whether that be a hangover, wasted money, a text you didn't mean to send, just so many things. And so that's what I'm excited about, is just letting more women know that there is a drinking spectrum. It's never too early and it's never too late to change your relationship with drinking. You don't have to wear a label. You don't even have to say never or forever or always in an effort to take a break and kind of reel it in. And that's what I do in my 21-day reset challenge. And it is a challenge because, again, it goes in the face of culture. It's counterculture to be mindful, really, in any way, shape, or form. And so that's what I'm excited about. And so if you're sober curious, if you just know that your relationship with alcohol has changed over the years, especially after the pandemic and COVID, you find yourself drinking more often than you'd really like, maybe drinking more than you would, set out or intend to do, and actually enjoying it less. These are just warning lights. Again, back to the analogy of being on the highway and driving your car. These are just warning lights that are just signaling you to take it into the shop, pull over, pop the hood, see what's going on. And so I think when you do that and you do it in an environment with support, practical tools, understanding the science, and having a guide like myself who's really already done this, you're going to find that it's not as daunting as you might think it is. And actually, there really are some great benefits to being more sober-minded, which is really my passion, is being awake, alert, and present in our own lives, which is sober-minded living, which is the name and title of my new book. It's called Look Alive, Sis. Look alive, because that's what sober-mindedness really is. It's about being awake, alert, alive, present in our own life instead of dull and just kind of sleeping through it, just kind of being rocked through it by just the rat race of getting it done all day and then just decompressing all night by numbing out. And so I really appreciate this opportunity to share more about my story, bring words to the surface like sober curious, gray area drinking, and let you know that there really is a community of support for this, and that there really is life on the other side of wine o'clock. Thanks so much.
All right, ladies. So that is my dear friend, Jenn Kautsch. I hope you enjoyed hearing her story and all the things that she talked about learning to feel alive again after alcohol. I don't think we need to have this all or nothing mindset. I think self-awareness is number one. So I want you to go check out Jenn's 21-day reset challenge. Go to sobersis, sobersis.com/21-day challenge. Check her out on Instagram as well. You can find her at sober, SOBER sis on Instagram. And as always, take a screenshot of this episode and tag me as well at Heather Chauvin, CHAUVIN. This is all about just helping you feel alive again. And we all have our own stories and journeys. And I think we need to be having more uncomfortable conversations about traditional ways that we numb our feelings and knowing that we're not alone and there is another way to be, to live, work, play, and parent.